Our denomination is about as inclusive as any denomination can be. In this world today, that's important. Many people, I believe, are feeling alienated and left out. People need a place to belong.
Being an Episcopalian is about finding the joy in life, and how do we share that joy?
What makes our situation unique, or at least particular, I think there's several things. I think the first is the diversity of this region. It's one of the most diverse regions, not just of the state, but of the country.
We're trying to create a loving environment that is so welcoming that people will realize that they don't have to all believe exactly the same thing. And in fact, the Episcopal Church has always been about that, really. We love a good argument, but we accept everybody. Another thing about it is its wonderful diversity, and that gives me great joy because it has been nothing but strong for us and good for us.
Hay congregaciones que hablan portugués, hay congregaciones coreanas, o sea que se nota que hay una diversidad, un espíritu pero muchos rostros. Hay personas de El Salvador, de Honduras, de Guatemala, de Chile, de Puerto Rico, de Colombia, o sea es un mosaico latinoamericano. Por eso es que en la parte de atrás de la iglesia tenemos banderas de todos los países de América Latina representando la diversidad que tiene la congregación.
I don't speak a word of Creole or French, but I have been at a number of services in some of our Haitian congregations, and I don't need to understand a word.
Moi j'ai 11 années ici dans le diocèse là. Pour moi même une caractéristique que le diocèse là gagne, c'est le monde de plusieurs endroits. Nous avons un pile monde qui parle espagnol. Nous avons tout une grande quantité d'Haïtiens qui parlent créole et français, et puis avec la communauté anglaise là, et puis nous avons tout et une grande partie de Noirs américains. Donc nous passons différentes diversités dans le diocèse là. Ça c'est une caractéristique bien particulière pour le diocèse et Sud-Est Florida.
Jesus is my friend, my brother, my confidant. He's everything to me.
The Diocese of Southeast Florida is not just Miami. We go all the way up to Jensen Beach. So we actually embrace a range of different kinds of cultures which do influence each other.
L'évêque du diocèse il toujours utilisé les trois langues. Nous avons toujours une lecture qui est faite en français ou bien en créole. Et puis dans la consécration, l'évêque a utilisé anglais, espagnol et français.
You see churches that are bringing in their context and bringing into the worship and informing the liturgy. It does open your heart and open your mind to something new. You're just like, oh wow, I haven't heard it that way. And I know what they're saying because I know the liturgy well, but this is in a different language. And this language is beautiful, it's different, and the expression and the passion and the way different cultures express the Nicene Creed, the Lord's Prayer, the Eucharistic prayer.
I think that the Episcopal Church does a pretty good job of being that kind of open, welcoming place.
Y cuando yo hablo de diversidad, hablo de respetar a todo tipo de personas, su orientación sexual, su orientación política, su color, su lengua. Si no somos una iglesia diversa, no estamos realmente haciendo iglesia.
L'église épiscopale, c'est une église qui est plus ouverte, très ouverte, wide open, very. Et c'est très ouvert parce que sont l'église qui, tout le monde bienvenu dans l'église épiscopale, tout le monde bienvenu.
I've always been a part of the Church in the Incarnation. It is my family. I used to say my church family. Now I don't say my church family. They are my family. I get joy from the people here. I get joy from interacting. I get joy from doing things. I just get joy being part of the Incarnation family. Everybody here is my family.
There's a lot of diversity, which is good. It's better because we are stronger. Each group brings something to the whole worship experience. And I think it gives us a deeper sense of what the kingdom of God looks like.
Today, Advent marks my 43rd year since I became affiliated with the church. So I got a chance to go to many churches. Lutheran church, the Methodist church, the Presbyterian church, all those churches I got a chance to experience. But it wasn't until I came here, I said, this is where I want to be, and this is where I've been ever since.
I think the diocese has made a lot of progress over the last 50 years. When I first came here, it was quite segregated. And now, on committees and so on, there's a conscious effort now to do it. And that's important, that we have an effort to make sure everybody is included and that not one group is left out. That's very important for the future of this diocese, I think.
It's given me a sense of love and appreciation for life. Church is the basis of my life, and I don't see being without church in my life, my faith in my life, my family. My church family is very important to me.
I'd like to see the church go further, to truly become a microcosm of what the church should be.
I think the first thing is for them to know that we are here. And once they know that we're here, then they know why we're here, what we're about. A warm church make people warm, make people like to come and interact with each other, and that's what we do.
Like I said, the best is yet to come. I feel that the Episcopal Church, the Diocese of Southeast Florida, is going to continue to be a force in the community as it has been in the past.
I have been Roman Catholic. I have been Lutheran. I have briefly been Baptist. I, for a long time, was non-denominational. And now the Lord has brought me to where I belong. I am an Episcopalian.
Well, I've been part of this diocese for 30 years, and I've been ordained more than half of that time. And I think the thing that I love the most about this diocese is how it has continued to change and I think grow.
The Diocese of Southeast Florida, in some ways, goes as far back as 1832 when St. Paul's Episcopal Church in Key West was founded. The Diocese of South Florida was split 50 years ago into Southeast Florida, Southwest Florida, and Central Florida, Orlando, and across the state. When I first came into the diocese, that was the beginning of Hispanic ministry in this diocese, Todos Los Santos in Miami.
En el año 1971 ellos compraron este edificio. La iglesia fue mayormente cubana en la década del 60 y 70. A partir de la década del 80 comenzó a cambiar la demografía de la iglesia.
Clergy and parishes and lay people had freedom to carry out their faith in a way that was genuine to them.
50 years ago, blacks were not allowed to sit in convention, women were not in any positions of authority in the church, and so on. 50 years later, we're completely different.
And when I was first called to be a deacon, there was no such thing. It was not a possibility, so it was kind of exciting when that did come about.
We will see, and should expect to see, the same kinds of dramatic changes into the future. And we do that by deepening our faith, by ensuring that our roots are grounded in this tradition that has changed and grown for centuries.
It's not a battalion of people in rank and file in perfect step with one another, but kind of in some ways, a wild crowd, all going out in different directions, different purposes, all looking to Jesus, all loving Jesus, and all following Jesus, but then it just manifests itself in so many different ways that people care for one another, the way they reach out to those in need, the way that they work to do justice in various areas of the diocese.
The diaconate itself changed for men and women to not be just a step for priesthood or not just an acolyte, kind of glorified acolyte, but rather a ministry of service.
Someone once was asked the question, what if the church lost everything? Lost its buildings, its endowments, its treasures, its gold, its silver. What would you do? And the bishop said, I'd get a bottle of wine and a loaf of bread, and I'd start again.
We are here with volunteers working along with the city of Miami, collecting donations and hurricane supplies for the persons in the Bahamas, especially those on the islands of Grand Bahama and Abaco that have been affected by Hurricane Dorian.
It's just wonderful the way people in our diocese and in our parishes and schools and special ministries reach out and do the work of God in this area and beyond.
Tenemos tres tipos de programas. Uno tiene que ver con un grupo de apoyo que se llama Soledad. En esta área viven muchas personas mayores, las cuales están solas, y nosotros una vez por mes tenemos aquí en nuestra iglesia reuniones con este grupo de personas. Nos ayudan distintos psicólogos y otras personas, médicos, y le damos informaciones a ellos sobre cómo poder lidiar con la situación de la depresión, cómo estar al tanto de sus medicinas, y tratamos de ayudarlo en ese sentido.
We have always been on the cutting edge of social justice, that we care deeply about the poor, we care deeply about those who are marginalized.
We have special ministries in parts of our region where they are the only people doing the work that they are doing, and were we not there, the people they serve would not be being served.
And that's, to me, says it all. What would Jesus want us to do? And Jesus would want us to take care of each other. And that's exactly what this diocese has been doing for 50 years. And I hope it continues to do that in the next 50 years.
For me, the church, and in particular this community, the church means love at its essence. I think the church is God's love going out into the world. It's not as much what we do when we're within these walls and in these classrooms, but it's what we do when we go outside of these walls and these classrooms and how we interact with humanity. One of my favorite verses is John 15:12, and he says, "My commandment is this, love one another as I have loved you." And we were first loved by Christ. And because of that, we are able to love and interact in a way with each other that God would have us do to show his love to the world.
One of the ways that the Episcopal Church is reaching out to upcoming generations is through social media. That doesn't mean that the church is just going to become a digital online presence. There's always going to be a need for us to gather together as a physical community that supports and loves one another. But the ways in which the church is reaching out is changing. We're well positioned, especially in the Episcopal Church, to reach out to these new generations in these new ways and to welcome them into our vibrant, loving communities.
The work that we do in education is some of the most important work that we do.
Our Episcopal schools in the Diocese of Southeast Florida truly excel, and it's not just in one way. We do excel in our advanced placement courses and preparing our children to go to really rigorous colleges, but it's also about, are they good people? Do they practice social justice? Do they understand the complex issues that we're facing as a society? How can we be better people and serve this country better? All of our Episcopal schools really care about mind, body, and spirit. So it's the whole child. It's not just one aspect of getting good grades. It's also being empathetic, understanding that there's a commitment to the greater world. Because in the Episcopal Church, it's very important that we understand the power of science, we understand the power of logic. We are based on scripture, tradition, and reason, and it's important for us to teach the children also how to embrace those three aspects of our tradition.
And learned a lot about God through grade school, high school, college, okay? And you know what? Finally, I found out it's not knowing about God, it's knowing God. And that's where I am. That's where I am in my life. I know God, and He knows me.
I think the church has come to understand that the old-fashioned ways are not necessarily going to work for the new world that we're moving into. I've seen a lot of changes. I've seen a lot, even since I've been ordained, but before as well. And as we throw aside some of our old habits and seem willing to take on new things, new ideas, new people, people that wouldn't have been ordained 30 years ago, you know? It's a great, great thing to see.
Bueno, a mí en los próximos 50 años, a mí me gustaría que nuestra diócesis y la Iglesia Episcopal en general en los Estados Unidos se renovara más. En su liturgia, en la música, en el trabajo con la juventud. Estamos en el tiempo del Espíritu y tenemos que dejar que el Espíritu nos guíe, nos dirija, y es importante que renovemos para poder crecer y poder llegar a las personas en este momento, porque las culturas cambian, los tiempos cambian y tenemos nosotros que, junto con los tiempos también, cambiar y renovarnos.
Jesus is the gift. Because God loved us so much. And Jesus was so obedient, and He loved God so much that He came for me. Do you believe that? Jesus came for me, and He walks with me. Every heartbeat, He walks with me. That's who He is to me.
What we're looking for is a movement, a coming together again without excluding anyone. And I see us inviting others to join us in that movement, to see, love, and to follow Jesus.
And while we may face an uncertain future that we can't predict, that in fact has always been true. And we face that uncertain future in faith, in companionship with God, and knowing that the church will always be here in some form or another. And our job is to be open and receptive and responsive so that we can enable the Christian community to continue to do God's work in the world, because that's what God is partnering with us to do.